Chapter 29. The Badlands, north of Dallas, Texas. Thursday, 2256. Year 2342. I only found your letter today, Uncle Phinneus. I'm afraid we missed it the first time we visited, Bill explained feebly. Phinneus looked much unchanged to Bill, embracing him in a manly half-hug as he guided him by the elbow from the refuse pile in which he stood, leading Bill along the slick steel decking which clanked with each step. Well, you always had a knack for missing the obvious. I actually traveled with you once when you were a boy, to the Alamo, and you got amazingly little from it, I'm sad to say. Phinneus introduced him to the bosun, who turned out to be two. Boci? Conjoined brothers sharing 2 legs, 4 arms, and 2 torsos. One torso topped with an oversized head, and the other an undersized head. Their names were Hoppy and a more pedestrian Brandon, both sporting identical red mullets and protruding rust-colored brows. Hoppy, the more verbal of the two, immediately launched into an animated discourse on the bizarre tides that had delayed them in their mission. Brandon, more detail-oriented, silently pointed out the objects his brother mentioned. As Brandon and Hoppy situated Bill with the layout of the lower deck, nodding to and naming the crew, an assortment of friendly, physically adaptive future humans, the roiling black sky was suddenly illuminated by great purple streaks of lightning zigzagging down to strike the water around the boat, the smell of sulfur filling the air. The twins whistled through the gaps in their front teeth, or tooth in Hoppy's case, swearing in tandem. God damn! Jaws slack as they stared up at the sky. An ear-splitting siren filled the air as everyone aboard covered their ears, grimacing in pain before reluctantly lurching into action. "What's happening?" Bill shouted over the din, which halted for a moment, only to begin again, echoing over the crescendo of thunder and the sizzle of lightning striking water. "Solar storm! Because of the weak ozone, they're vicious! Hold on! This one looks like a hoss!" Phinneus projected over the howling winds and the fading sirens, the boat rocking violently in the swelling waves. "Hoppy! Brandon! Have Scatwell uncover the lifeboat just in case! I've never seen one of these built so big, so fast." Per usual, Bill's timing was impeccable, and as they crawled ashore hours later, half drowned in the polluted waters of the endless shallow sea, and collapsed upon the sodden sands of a hidden cove, Phinneus nudged him, cackling good-naturedly. "I'll bet you're wondering why I asked you here, eh?" It had crossed my mind. Bill pushed himself from the sand, pulling Phinneus to his feet while he searched the surf for survivors, the majority of which they'd last seen floating away on the sinking shell of the beleaguered ship. "Don't feel too badly for them," Uncle Phinneus offered stoically, watching Hoppy and Brandon set to work salvaging any supplies that washed ashore. "Many of them have flippers." "But what if they're all dead?" Bill lamented. "More'n likely captured," Brandon spat in a rare moment of verbalization as he and Hoppy ambled up from the waterline, beaming with pride over their new acquisition. "A half-filled canteen? Everybody knows that's better than one half empty," Hoppy observed wisely. Several strands of sodden-tangled rope, and a shard of rotting wood. "Captured by who?" Bill probed. "Management," Hoppy snorted knowingly, looking up while Brandon pointed skyward agreeably. Bill turned to Phinneus confused. "What is this? You said this was home, but this can't be Plainview." "It's home, Bill. I hope you still own your house. It's beachfront property here in 2342, he crowed, lifting his arms to present the decaying landscape. The fetid seawater curled around the gray and greenish sands of the desolate beach. Tufts of black wiry weeds dotting an occasional patch of brown soil, the only visible plant life. Another quiet blimp cruised overhead, a faded, rippled promotional poster depicting a happy, healthy young person standing legs akimbo, several bunches of freshly picked carrots still caked with dirt in each hand, a great smile on their symmetrical face, enlarged upon each side of the dirigible, its slogan reading, "Yes, you can." There was a giant mauve letter S logo on the back of the blimp, followed by some faded squiggles Bill couldn't make out, and then the word farms. Phineas eyed the blimp bitterly, explaining, all of the world's food, now conveniently brought to you by Saharaza Farms, the co-owners and operators of everything left of the world. Another blimp floated past, the lights on each side snapping on to sweep the path beneath it as it flew, the giant Saharaza S logo emblazoned upon the back. I don't understand. The Saharazas, Bill. Your old friends, the Sanders, is how I believe you know them. Well, how is that even possible? They're having queso with the Morrisons. It's a long story, Bill. I'm sorry I've been out of touch. But this is just one of many potential futures. All of them wretched. If things keep going the way they've been going in your timeline, well, you get the idea. Home sweet home. Phineas eyed the sky warily, marching purposefully toward the rising dunes beyond the beach. Well, come on then, he stamped impatiently. It'll be full sun soon. It's dangerous. We need to get indoors. Hoppy and Brandon followed Phineas over the dunes, gesturing to Bill. Where are we going now? Bill moaned. To sign on with the company, Phineas explained. We're all free men here, though some of the crew were escaped indentures, which could have been tricky. But we need to get a berth for the night, some protection, and some food until we can travel on. As they crested the dune and surveyed the barren valley below, Bill recognized the ruins of what had once been the Plainview city center, now rotted to gray nubs laid out in a square, only 2 or 3 structures remaining upright. From the shell of a crumbling 2-story stone building, sporting the regalia of a repurposed municipal property, an immense opaque tube rose into the sky, swaying like a stout kite string in the breeze, its destination obscured by a low ceiling of gray clouds. When Bill peered up through the fog and an anemic ray of sun cracked briefly through, he could see what appeared to be a skyward ski lift inside the opaque tube, with tiny figures seated on a bench-style carousel, their feet dangling precariously as they rode up to a sprawling, floating platform enclosed in a huge, transparent bubble, connected to other bubbles through more tubes arranged like petals on a flower. An entire floating domed city, majestically levitating above the clouds. Bill experienced a wave of vertigo staring up and blinked his eyes to clear his head. Wait till we get on the lift, Hoppy remarked playfully, punching Bill's shoulder. Ha ha! Ha! Brandon added, punching the other shoulder. The lift, a first-come, first-serve affair with seating for 2, operated much like its ski brethren, with one situating themselves just so, to be scooped up by the carousel and lifted directly skyward. Hardly a bastion of safety, Bill noticed, with nary a strap nor safety belt in sight. Phineas marched directly to a ticket counter, speaking quietly to the foreman before waving them over to join him. The foreman, a small hunchback man perhaps 4 feet tall, with wide-set, vacant eyes on a head resembling a yam, turned to pull more documents from a creaky filing cabinet behind him, revealing a third eye situated on the left side of his head, staring disinterestedly at Bill before giving him a slow wink. Here's your chits and assignment nodule. Phineas presented a small plastic card to Hoppy, Brandon, and Bill. A chit? Bill stared at the card in his hand, a series of numbers, his name, and the Saharaza Food Farm logo printed on the face of it. It's our ticket to a hot meal, Phineas explained. You won't get that in the Badlands. In this world, if you want to eat, you work. If you want to work, you work for the Saharazas. Phineas pointed up at the bubble farm, concluding cheerfully as they joined the lift queue behind Hoppy and Brandon. All right, gents. Long ride up. How long did you set the clock for, son? Phineas whispered to Bill as they took their place on the loading platform, waving as Hoppy and Brandon lifted away. I have so much information to impart upon you, not to mention our shift in the... Phineas glanced down at the chit card. Rhubarb field. I've got about 24 hours left, Bill replied somberly, glancing down at his watch. You better get to talking. In addition to finding out just what in the hell a rhubarb was, he was certainly ready for some real answers. Or so he thought.